Okay, let's dive into this. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're going to unpack a truly fascinating and honestly pretty bold prophecy outlined in a recent lecture. The source material we're looking at today presents this massive overarching vision regarding South Korea's geopolitical destiny. According to the speaker, the country is standing right on the precipice of a monumental shift, one that will fundamentally alter its position on the world stage by the year 2030. We're going to break down exactly what this vision entails, the really unique philosophy behind it, and the specific timeline the speaker lays out. So, whether you're following global tech, economics, or geopolitics, this is a vision you're absolutely going to want to hear. To really wrap our heads around this grand prophecy, we have to start with the current reality that the speaker addresses right out of the gate, and that is the global talent war. The lecture highlights a very real anxiety present in South Korea today. When top-tier Korean talent feels mistreated, or maybe they just struggle to adapt locally, international powerhouses swoop right in. The speaker specifically calls out tech giants, places like NVIDIA, for example, as foreign entities stepping in to acquire Korean innovators who might feel undervalued in their home environment.
And this brings us to a pivotal question, which is really the core thesis of the entire lecture. With all these brilliant minds seemingly flooding out of the country, is this brain drain a permanent loss? Well, while a lot of people view this as a total crisis, the speaker actually flips this anxiety completely on its head. The source argues that this exodus, it's not the end of the story. It's actually just the necessary beginning of a cycle. According to the lecture, this current trend of losing talent is destined to violently reverse itself. Let's move to Section 1 and see how this builds. The 2030 turning point, a timeline of reversal. To understand this massive geopolitical shift, we gotta look at the chronological roadmap the source provides. The speaker breaks down the future into very distinct phases. Right now, we're in what the source describes as a dark period, characterized by dissatisfaction and talent loss. But here's the catch. The critical window is the period leading right up to the year 2030. The speaker asserts that this time must be used for cleanup and preparation. If the country improves its internal environment during this window, 2030 is going to act as a massive inflection point. Post-2030, the prophecy dictates that instead of a brain drain, we'll see an unprecedented global influx of leaders and wealth rushing back into the country.
The scale of this prediction is just massive. Compare the current state of affairs, Koreans leaving due to a lacking domestic environment, with the speaker's projected future. Once the environment is properly prepared, the lecture claims the world's top intellectuals, the ultimate tech experts, and individuals holding immense wealth will literally rush into Korea. In fact, the speaker boldly predicts that people from all over the world will be begging to become Korean citizens. No way, right? But that's the claim. Moving right along to Section 2, the root of humanity, unpacking the philosophy. So the crucial point is, now that we understand what the speaker predicts will happen, we really need to examine why they believe it's going to happen. And it all comes down to this concept of Hongik Ingan. This is a foundational philosophy in the lecture. The speaker describes Hongik Ingan as leaders who operate with the ultimate mindset of benefiting all of humanity rather than just, pursuing selfish or purely nationalistic goals. The lecture asserts that there are many of these enlightened leaders scattered across the globe right now, and by their very nature, they are destined to converge in South Korea.
But why Korea, specifically? Well, the speaker uses a traditional phrase, Samcholi Gumsukangsan, which translates to the beautiful land of 3,000 ri. That's using an old traditional unit of measurement to reference the entire Korean peninsula. The lecture frames this specific landmass as the fundamental root of humanity. According to the speaker's worldview, it's basically a natural law that all of humanity's energy, its ultimate leaders, and its resources must eventually return to their roots.
And when this convergence happens, it won't just be people returning. The source provides a very specific list of assets that these global leaders are going to bring with them. The speaker predicts a massive influx of global economy and wealth, critical energy resources, absolute top-tier skills, and unrivaled technological advancements. The assertion here is that these leaders aren't coming back empty-handed, right? They're going to bring the absolute pinnacle of human achievement back to the root.
Which brings us right back to those Korean researchers currently at companies like NVIDIA. The speaker offers a total reframing of this situation. The advice is super direct. Don't worry about brain drain. Instead, the lecture suggests viewing this as a necessary international training phase. It's essentially like studying abroad on a global scale. The speaker claims that these individuals are just out in the world gathering international experience, but because their core energy belongs to Korea, they're inevitably going to return to join forces once the country's environment is properly prepared.
All right, on to Section 3, Capital of the World, a global debt of knowledge.
We're now going to shift our focus to the grandest claim made in the entire lecture, that South Korea is destined to become the literal capital of the world. To justify this, the speaker walks us through a very specific historical logic. Step 1, historically, Korea was on the brink of total destruction. Step 2, the global community stepped in, making immense sacrifices to save the nation. Following this, for Step 3, the world poured its collective knowledge, aid, and culture into rebuilding it. Therefore, and this is Step 4, the speaker argues that Korea is no longer just a single country. It has fundamentally become the nation of humanity, basically belonging to everyone.
And this brilliantly illustrates the logical conclusion of the speaker's argument. Following this framework, if Korea is truly the nation of humanity, then its capital, Seoul, is destined to be recognized as the capital of the world. The source insists this isn't just some metaphor, but a literal, impending reality where global governance and leadership will literally center themselves in Seoul.
Which leads into Section 4, Preparing Local Regions, the Immediate Action Plan.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how this grand philosophy of world capitals is actually grounded in immediate advice for the present day. Look at how the speaker interprets current global travel trends. Right now, when foreigners visit Korea, the general assumption is, oh, they're just tourists. But the lecture makes a highly specific claim here. While 70% are indeed there for tourism and enjoyment, a crucial 30% are actually there on covert inspection missions. Yeah, according to the speaker, these individuals are quietly checking and assessing the country, basically scouting it out to prepare for that massive future influx of wealth and corporate headquarters we talked about.
Because of these ongoing quiet inspections, the speaker commands a massive shift in how local regions operate. Currently, there's widespread despair over regional decline, shrinking populations, dying provincial cities. You know the story. But the lecture instructs local leaders to completely abandon this anxiety. Actually, scratch that. Their sole focus should be on meticulously managing and preserving these regions. Why? Because these quiet provincial towns are supposedly the future operational basis for incoming global entities.
The speaker emphasizes this point really heavily. The absolute assurance is that when the global influx happens, it's not just going to flood Seoul. Massive international headquarters, global institutions, and immense wealth will bypass the capital entirely and directly enter and revitalize these local provinces. So the message to the local regions is simply hold the fort, keep it clean, and be ready, because the whole world is coming to your doorstep. Which leaves us with this final overarching thought derived from the source material. The speaker paints a picture of a 2030 turning point where brain drain completely reverses, global talent floods in, and South Korea ascends as the literal root and capital of humanity. It is an incredibly vast, almost unbelievable, and provocative vision of the future. The question the lecture ultimately poses to its audience isn't really whether this will happen, but rather, is the country actually doing the preparation required to handle the immense weight of becoming the capital of the world? It's a lot to think about. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll see you next time.